Oh yeah. How's everybody doing today? It is Thursday, June 27th, 2019. This is Big Chonis. It has been a while since we have done a live video, but I figure that the price action of Bitcoin warrants it. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit that thumbs up button. Please hit that follow button. Also, guys, remember to follow me on Twitter. I am at Big Chonis. Just a great. Geez, oh wow, what price action we have experiencing here. So, um, I want to touch base on a couple charts. I want to touch base on a couple interesting indicators and kind of get a sense of where we are in the market and where we could be going. I do want to start with our weekly chart. This is our weekly current weekly candle. Quite an upper wick we have here, quite a major rejection we have in the $13,800 area. I want to talk a little bit about why that area for now is very important and potential other areas of support and resistance we need to be aware of. Now, yesterday's volatility and the price action was pretty epic, and I had actually described this in a posting I did on TradingView a day ago, 2 days ago, that Bitcoin has entered the blow off top phase. And basically, what that means is we get these extreme intercandle volatility moves where we have $1,000 or up to $2,000 volatile moves in the price action of Bitcoin. Once again, we have seen something very similar to that occurrence yesterday, bringing tremendous volatility in the market. And because we have so much kinetic energy now built up into this market on these massive volume candles here over the past several weeks, these kind of volatile moves are definitely in play. So let's keep it with a wider 50,000 square feet 50,000 feet above overview, and then we'll kind of hone into some other specific details. So I want to start with basically Fibonacci resistance support, our entire move here, our summit 20,000, our base camp 3150, and this golden pocket, which I also put out a TradingView tweet on right here, that Bitcoin has reached up into the golden zone. Now, this golden zone begins at the 71.8 Fibonacci resistance, was around $13,500, up to potentially as high as 14K. We didn't actually get there. We were a couple $100 away from that. Now, not just is this zone of resistance important, but it also corresponds with our horizontal levels of previous price action and history that acted as support and then acted as very strong resistance when Bitcoin broke it and was trying to get above. Now, this area held as weekly candle support for several weeks here before failing. So historically, 13.8 area to up to $14,000, is mega resistance. And there we are once again. So the continued current resistance here does a couple things. It needs to put the 50% as a support level in play. Now, just as this golden pocket corresponds with horizontal price history, our 50% area, let's make that green. Yeah, green's fine. Also corresponds with this horizontal area of price support. So maintaining a weekly candle close, okay, above the 50% Fibonacci, which is somewhere in the $11,500 area, becomes a very meaningful area of weekly closing candle support that Bitcoin really needs to maintain, unless failure to do so makes this candle and its upper wick that much more of a shooting star sell-off. Now, for now, we are still at a higher high on our weekly chart. So a close really above 10.8 keeps that higher high in play, and even with the upper wick, It is still a bullish candle. It is a bullish candle because we have a higher high still holding. We broke last week's upper wick resistance at 11.2, and as I said, ideal close above the 50%, but more importantly, the hold above the 11,290 area, which did represent last week's upper wick intra-week rejection. Closing above that in 3 days, which will close out our weekly candle, still keeps the higher low, higher high uptrend intact, and the overall continuation chance for bullish expansion still in play. Great. But a failure to hold above this key area, and frankly, a close that's not in the 11s, but in the 10s, begins to make this area more of a treacherous zone and potentially an area of longer consolidation. The break of $10,000, psychologically meaningful, but in the chart itself, it really didn't add much resistance. Remember, the Bitcoin price action was kind of chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And when it broke through with a vengeance without that break under test back in the nines there. So any continued weekly price action going forward above $10,000, it still keeps the very meaningful bullish supports into play. I want to get rid of my fib for just a moment here. So we've defined our major resistance area, and we've defined our ideal area of support coinciding with our horizontals. Now, let's look at this from just the parabola itself, because we have our curve, and as we extend here and maintain the parabola supports without going inverted, you can see we actually have a couple weeks here of space to still keep our bullish parabola intact, but allow for consolidation, potentially even allow for some sort of a little wick test. But for now, the parabola still going straight up gives deference to a price action in the upper $10,000 range before this breaks its support. So from now to that break, we have almost $1,000 of downward play potential to maintain that parabola bullish intact, which can still lead to much higher Bitcoin prices until broken. Now, we could even go, in theory, a little wider here. But still, everything about this parabola is pointing to needing to maintain price history and price supports above, let's call it the mid $10,000 range. And that will be quite notable in the coming weeks to see if we can continue to hold that major area, of overall support. Because let's face it, we fail to hold 10K, and the kind of a narrative of the moonshot that this pattern is creating begins to wane from that overall very important psychological standpoint of that support. So there's our upper higher time frame there. I want to pull on a couple other indicators. I want to start with our Bollinger Bands. Okay, weekly chart. We're still above the freaking upper BB. Okay, we were way above it. We've come back down here. We're still above it. Above is 11.2. Okay, middle Bollinger support still down in the 6Ks and rising. This volatility move bullish spread our lower Bollinger lower here. So we have weeks ahead of us to continue to have a very wide Bollinger profile, still in play here until the price action and the volatility kind of subsides and allows these to kind of get a little tighter here. Ichimoku on the weekly I find is actually very important because resistance turn support, still acting as support with continued closes above 10.2. Remember I mentioned 10.2 was kind of our last area of must hold support before we start flirting with losing that parabola. So maintaining support above cloud resistance on the weekly, which up to now was our highest time frame that the price action was unable to get above, and now we can see it's currently holding above. So still bullish in that context. All of our moving averages on the highest time frame weekly chart still way below here. We're still our MA 100 is still at 7K, and these have slowly begin to move higher. We will see our 50 responding quicker now because it will move quicker than the 100 in this move here. We're still in a bearish stance here. We want to get the 50 above the 100, and for now we have the 100 above the 50. TD sequential, we're on a green 3. We have still a green 3 above a green 2. We do have a combo 13 relating to a previous 9 count, but we are still above setup trend resistance, now acting as support, which is down around 9,000 there. And as I said before, the 9 blast through could be a bleed up. Granted, this was a massive bleed up, but still, the shape and the fundamentals of where we close this weekly candle will be super uber important. Maintaining that higher close above really last week's resistance of 11.3 is significantly ideal. I want to take a quick look here just at our monthly chart because we do close out our month in 3 days. Yesterday we were up here. Today we're down here. Now notice monthly candle resistance, okay? Look where we also hit that resistance here. This was monthly candle resistance, 13.8. Monthly candle resistance turned support, maybe 11.7. That's where we kind of are right now. So these upper wicks, well, these closing candle represented the monthly resistance. These upper wicks represented previous monthly resistance and an ideal area for Bitcoin to find support. Again, holding above the 11.7 area of Bitcoin price action. And that is very important to hold because this is the area where you want to find that overall support, maintaining that support and allowing for that next run of expansion once again. So key areas that key areas that would be ideal supports on these higher time frames being the monthly and the weekly chart. And one more thing I want to show on the monthly was the fact that we were able to get above upper BB, and there is our wick out of it. Now, because our Bollingers are so wide currently, I don't look at this pattern here when we rode the upper BB, honestly, as the same thing we're doing now. We had a very tight Bollinger Bands that allowed for that expansion running up the upper Bollinger on the monthly. We are still almost as wide on our BBs as we were previously when we had this blow off top. We're literally at the exact same spot here. So unlike this allowing to ride up it, this is now acting as a major resistance area and a good reason why we actually did find that resistance here as well. This could be it. This could be the resistance area, which means the middle BB support at $7,300 and slightly rising overall becomes a much more meaningful support overall. So monthly, still very bullish with this upper wick. Weekly, as we said, still bullish with a close above last week's resistance at 11.3. We can continue that. Then yes, the candle itself, even with the upper wick, does remain in a very bullish stance. So these key candle closes, weekly and monthly, that basically happen at the exact same day in a couple days from now, will be very meaningful. 28, 29, 30, yeah, the month and the week end basically at the same time. And our quarter ends, right? Yeah, we have a brand new quarter starting in 3 days as well. Look at this freaking quarterly chart here. I mean, look at this candle. Look at the past 3 months. This is 3 months of Bitcoin price history. Uh, wow. And we have only this other big candle to compare it to, which had an upper wick and then was able to kind of get a little higher the previous quarter, the follow-up quarter, before giving a lot of that back. So we have a precedent for a major pullback following a massive quarter like we just did in Bitcoin's price action. So we close our weekly, our monthly, and our quarterly literally in 3 days from today. Okay, let's go with some lower time frames here. I'll start with my daily chart. Okay, now our current daily does have this dark cloud cover, okay, and does have this bearish engulfing. Okay, still early in the day. We still have about 9 more hours left to go to form up this daily candle. Ideal close above 11.8. Okay, but this is a treacherous candle here after having so many days of advance to be hitting this kind of a wick followed by the bearish cloud cover. It'll be notable to see where that close is. Also see how yesterday's candle was way above upper BB. We are now back to inside Bollinger Band, middle BB at $9,500 and rising sharply. Still way above cloud support. Still way above our nearest moving average, MA50, which is still in the $8,500 area. See, this is what I mean by a bullish spread here. 50 over 100 over 200, where in the weekly we have 100 over 50 over 200. So we want to get our weekly MAs to look like our daily MAs here. We also had our highest volume yesterday, and normally these topping patterns are consistent with our highest volume of price action. So this is blow off top volume that we saw in yesterday's price action, being so above all our indicators. Still way above our MA12, which in my TA is my first EMA of note, and that's still around the 10.7, a good $1,000 lower than where our current Bitcoin price action is now. Now, I want to talk about yesterday. I want to talk about what was the candle patterns that formed up the chance that we were hitting this top off. Not necessarily because of our longer term resistances, but on our 1 hour chart, we had this candle here. Now, this is a top hammer. This is a hanging man. This is a hanging man because of where it happened to be in the pattern here at the top of an uptrend. You would call this a bottom hammer if it happened at the bottom of an uptrend. Doesn't have to be a shooting star, but once I saw that, combined with a TD9 on the exact same candle, look out below. And sure enough, this follow-up candle here was some of the biggest volatility we have seen in Bitcoin in months, where we literally went down $2,000, then we went up $1,000, then we went down $1,300, then we went up $1,000, and actually went up $1,000. We went up almost $2,000 a couple hours later. So tremendous volatility on both sides. You could have missed all this and then just played very quick, super high leverage longs and shorts in this 4 hour period and had thousands of dollars in each direction for Bitcoin to basically play on that. Very important there, and very important to keep something like that in mind. This is over here. This is our price range I'm using to determine the intra-candle moves there, which shows the percentage as well as the actual dollar amount of precise range over here under price range. So very intense volatility there. And we've given all this back, all of our bullish bounces back. And once again, we're flirting with this very key area of support that really needs to be held in the $11,300 zone. Okay. So this is a bouncing ball and we're losing bounce. I don't know about this. I don't know if this is bullish support here or if we're just on the edge of losing this 11.3. Now, watch for closing. We've yet to close an hourly below 11.3. We have 3 distinct upper wicks here finding that support. Our first hourly close below 11.3 would be a very, very um, worrisome for the bulls here, because that begins to put into play those areas I mentioned around the 10/8 and potentially lower as support. Um, where is my... This is still very early for me to even kind of draw this, but we got some kind of a head and shoulders forming here. I really have to say, it's still very early, but there's a possibility that we have formed kind of our left shoulder here. This is our defined head, and our right shoulder, um, shallow, can find us that support. The neckline is down around 10.7 though, because of where our basically formation of our shoulder kind of has to be. So we still have running room down to find our neckline support, but because of where our left shoulder was formed, I put that somewhere in the in the 10.5 range here. So still very early to see if this HNS is playing out. But something to keep an eye on, and that notable area of 10.5 support could potentially confirm our neckline, because I don't think this is our neckline here. I think it's actually a lot lower down here. A bounce from 10.4 back to 11.5 maybe, forming up our right shoulder. And then, yikes. Now, this could give us a neck to head measured move down. Yikes. Down to 7K? What? You kidding me here? 7K? How's that possible? Well, there it is. But this takes us into July here. We're into the next... This is 4 days away from potentially hitting a neckline, forming a right shoulder, and then down we go. So a little pattern to keep an eye on in the back of your head here, because still very early for that to be confirmed. Now, overall, listen, resistance at 11.2, resistance at 11.2, resistance at 11.2, bust through, support at 11.2, support at 11.2, support at 11.2. So 11.2 support is still holding and making that a more meaningful area of support, which also makes it a more meaningful area if it fails to actually hold that support in the long run. What else to cover? The RSIs as they were, the stochastics as they are. The more meaningful indicator for me right now is our OBV. Oops. Let's make that. Let's make this a little thicker here. So this is our daily. This is Bitcoin all-time high. You can see we're right there. There's the resistance. Okay, there's our low there. But this is still super, super strong. A lot of people are still holding with this pullback here, and we can see that in the strength of our OBV. Now, on lower time frames, okay, we can actually see how much more meaningful that rejection was. And I will continue to keep an eye on this in our lower time frames, as not only are we flirting with losing this line of support on our 1 hour OBV, right? Held it, rode it, found support, broke it, back above now, but flirting with it. And this could be, again, another early indicator on a lower time frame that shows that people are a little scared now holding Bitcoin in these price levels here. And potential for that bigger drop is definitely a possibility. I'll look at a couple more charts here. I want to start with Bitcoin CME futures. I started the week out talking about our weekly gaps. Gap. We now have 2 gaps on the weekly chart, unfilled, unprecedented, precedented. I also put a tweet out, and this is very important. This guy here. We had a gap on the 4-hour chart at 13,866. We topped off at 13,870. Coincidence that we went $4 higher than the only open gap on the 4-hour chart on the CME futures? I don't think so. I think this was a gap that needed to get filled, has gotten filled, and every other gap now on the 4-hour and lower is lower than the current price action we find ourselves in right now. And that's from the 4-hour all the way up to our higher time frames here. This sets the table for lower gaps to be filled on the daily gap here, gap here. This gap was filled. And of course, on the higher time frame weekly chart. Gaps get filled. Yes, they do. Sometimes they take a while. This 4-hour took months, but it got filled. Bitcoin shorts still cranking here. I mean, who are these shorts that loaded through the entire bullish move of June, still loaded through it, and now are still holding with this volatility in Bitcoin, where longs, you can see, are actually capitulating here quite significantly here. This is still favoring a bullish setup, longs dropping and shorts staying pretty high here and pretty strong. This is still favoring a long Bitcoin price action momentum. If shorts were lower here, I would actually be much more bearish. But because shorts are still holding this extreme here with longs dropping, this doesn't necessarily push the price down lower, nor does it rise it up. I want to see shorts take some leverage off here, and that would make me a little more bearish. The way they're holding up pretty strong now, this is actually, in my opinion, adding bullish support to the Bitcoin price action until proven otherwise. So the alt market, let me make a few points about the altcoin market. So we have seen that the BTC pairings of altcoins have just gotten absolutely slaughtered. Bitcoin dominance has increased tremendously, and we have seen altcoins just take a crapper because of that. Now we've also noticed that yes, the USD pairings have held up quite well, and that's just because the valuation of Bitcoin was rising. So we would expect to see the USD pairings continue to basically hold that support. Will we see now that Bitcoin has, found some meaningful near-term supports, right? Kind of hovering around here in this area. Let's go back to our hourly here. Okay, still holding at 11.3. Is this ranging now going to explain the possibility now for alts to then have all this profit in Bitcoin's price action? Are we going to see altcoins in the BTC pairing format of that begin to run? We had seen the previous alt seasons run because of profit taking in Bitcoin with stable Bitcoin prices allowing alts to move. We have seen, I'll just use Tron as an example here, some of this bottoming support here, people dipping their toe into the BTC pairings here, looking for that area of support to hold. Not across the board, but we're seeing a lot of this now with a support trying to find supports here as Bitcoin holds. Looking for potential clues in either Ethereum or Litecoin might give us those earlier signs that altcoins have found that stability and potentially could be stronger holds. All deterrent here, all determinative by what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin is able to maintain, and not just maintain, but able to consolidate. And consolidate, let's say above $11,000 for the next week or so, that could allow the stability that the alts are looking for to range here. Look at Bitcoin's volatility here. I'll only go to the weekly here, okay? Now, I remember tweeting about this days ago, about this is the zone where we find that bounce, okay? Our weekly volatility way up here. But look, when we tend to get up here with these weekly volatility moves here, okay, we tend to hit resistance and have these upper wicks. These upper wicks represent a stabilizing of volatile Bitcoin moves. So I wouldn't be surprised if we begin to see this upper wick begin to form as Bitcoin stabilizes in a hundreds of dollars range versus thousands of dollars range that we saw in yesterday's price action there. So, just a quick recap here. 114 of my closest friends watching me on my YouTube channel. Guys, remember to hit that thumbs up button. 114 of you watching. I'd love to have 114 thumbs up. I want to say hi to my good buddies Jay Stroud, DMCW 1982. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Malik Sony. Hello, Stephen Moore. Hello, Denny Hillard. Hello, Adam Barnes. Hello, DN Negro. Hello, Wei Ta. Hello, Kevin Richardson. Hello, Jeanette Crypto, my old friend. Hello, Green Zine 99. Hello, SS Swartz 88. Hello, Pat Can. What's up, guys? Hello, Miguel. Hello, Chadwin Solomon. Here, everybody wants to say hi. Remember to hit that thumbs up button, guys. 114 of you watching. Let's get 114 likes here. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Take a look here. Let's go to a tighter time frame here. Okay, a little 15-minute shot. Okay. Again, this is the bouncing ball, right? This is our cliff. Here's our ball. 1 bounce, 2 bounce, 3 bounce, 4 bounce, 5 bounce. This doesn't look bullish to me, even though we're finding this support again and again and again. The more we lose our momentum here, the more that ball loses that bouncing momentum, it's a good chance it's going to do this and not this. Bitcoin's wounded right now. It's not dead. It's not mortal wound, but it took a wound. It took a shot here with this candle, and we're going to see, I think, very soon how strong this area of support is. Hey, Stephen Moore, my buddy. Thank you, sir. Remember, guys, tips are always appreciated. Stephen Moore, you're a rock star. Hello, Avernus. Hello, Kevin Wynn. Hello, Andrew Jones. Hello, Chuck Gray. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing this area of 11.2, major area of support that needs to be held, flirting with losing it once again, and still early in the day to see that. Now, this could take the next couple days to really play out and really allow our weekly candle to form up. Remember, back many weeks ago, I remember we had this weekly candle here, and it looked bearish because we had this big upper wick, right? But in reality, what this candle was a weekly close excuse me, with a higher low and a higher high of the previous week on a bullish engulf of the previous weekly's candles body. So even with this upper wick resistance, this was a bullish candle and acted as such on the follow-up. So I still point that out because even though this weekly candle could have a very big upper wick, as it currently does, a close with a higher high, especially with last week's previous weekly higher close resistance at 11.2, and the overall close support at 10.8 is significantly meaningful to keep this weekly with an upper wick as a bullish candle, even with that upper wick. And that is definitely an important thing to keep an eye on in the next 3 days as we flow through and set in our weekly area of closing candle support. I wanted to check out our 4-hour, and I want to check out our Bollinger Bands, because we found support on the middle BB on all these 4-hour candles. And with 53 minutes left to go in this current 4-hour candles, as I speak to you right now, we're flirting with losing that middle Bollinger area of support. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean if it closed below, we're going down to our lower BB, but it sets that table. It sets that table. And that's something that needs to be looked at if we end up closing this 4-hour candle below middle BB support, potentially turned into resistance. Lower time frame Bollingers being cradled here by the hourly lower BB support. Okay, and as volume continues to slowly decline. Look at this 12-hour here, where we were basically hitting this upper BB resistance and middle BB support on the 12-hour is at 10.6. I want to just do a quick scan here of our TD indicator and see if anything is screaming. Remember, this was our 1 hour. That was kind of the 9 on a hanging man. Okay, we almost had a 9 on the hourly, didn't close that out. We are on a red 3 with running room on our 4-hour. We are on a red 2 with running room on our 6-hour. We are on the still on a green count with 8 hours to go left in our 12-hour here. So even though we're currently on a red 1, this could still flip to a green 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, with a close above 11.7 here, confirming on this candle here. So bearish up to the 6-hour, 12-hour still holding a bullish, still a green 7 on the daily. Okay. Look at this 2-day candle. Look at this 2-day candle. Good grief. I like the 2-day. I've actually been looking at the 2-day for. It's actually been having some accurate calls here on the 2-day. But look at that 2-day candle here, and this closes out tomorrow. This closes out tonight. So if we close out this 2-day candle looking like this, good grief. Plus we're on an 8. Look at a 3-day, still a green count, still on a green 5, and we know our weekly is still a very early green 3, and our monthly is still a very early green 4 here, although on a sequential 13. So lower time frames are showing bearish counts on our TD. Higher time frames are still holding that bullish count. VPVR still shows the gap between 13 and 11.8 is why we had such a blow through here so quickly. There's limited price supports in this area. We see that from a historical standpoint. Okay. A lot of these gaps have been filled in, but we do see still this mega gap here between the 4s and the $6,000 area, and this other guy here down to around 3K, and then everything else is just kind of lower, 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 especially if we zoom out to a little more of a history here. Okay, very limited price history where we are currently. Most of our price history historically in Bitcoin is much lower than our current candle is where we have it right now. So to finish up here, guys, our daily candle is flirting with looking very bearish, with a bearish engulf, dark cloud potential after a massive blow off top volume spike in yesterday's price action. Okay, our weekly, even with this upper wick, is still holding a bullish stance with the ideal close above 11.3 to as low as 10.8, would still hold a higher high in our weekly close. Our monthly did find that upper BB resistance here, and because the monthly just has a whole lot of ranging room. All of our nearest of term supports, moving averages, indicators, all these are still way below where our current price action is. So the more meaningful supports from a moving average standpoint are still significantly lower than where our current price action is. And I will finish up here where I basically started, which was our Fibonacci and the fact that we were able to achieve our golden pocket, and our ideal area of support will be a close above 50%, above 11.4, 11.5. Okay. A close below this 50 absolutely can put the 382 back into play, and that would be a break of $9,000 potentially. So with that, 100 of you guys stuck with me here for the past 42 minutes. Much appreciated. Please hit that thumbs up button. Tell your friends. I want to do at least one weekly show on YouTube, maybe do two, depending upon how the price action plays out. Remember, guys, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm a proud member of Bitcoin Live as a featured analyst. Definitely check that out. And I'm trying to integrate more charts on TradingView. So if you could check me out on TradingView, and remember to give me a follow on TradingView. I got 211 followers on TradingView. I'd like to continue to ramp that higher and do a little cross promotion with my Twitter account, with my TradingView account, with my YouTube account, etc., etc. So with that, this is Big Chonis. You guys have been great. Thank you for spending some time with me here, and trade safe out there. Look forward to talking to you guys soon. Peace.